Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in again. We aren't merely discussing another game on the court today. What's happening out in the California desert right this very second is an absolute game changer, a massive cultural moment, and a legendary chapter in pro tennis history. Here is the massive headline that just blew everyone's minds and completely rocked the entire athletic community. Every single one of the 16,000 seats inside Stadium 1 at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden has been snatched up, a totally mind-blowing, packed-to-the-rafters situation. Now, I want to emphasize exactly why this is front-page global news. We aren't looking at the guys battling it out for the trophy, nor is this the ladies' title bout. You're also not witnessing the final curtain call for some all-time great who spent 20 years creating a massive worldwide legacy. Nope. Believe it or not, folks, this incredibly rare maxed-out attendance is strictly for a Round 3 face-off. It's the round of 32, yet it feels anything but ordinary. We're getting a heavyweight finals-caliber clash pitting America's own world. No.4 juggernaut Coco Gauff against the phenomenal world number 31 breakout from the Philippines, Alexandra Eala. The buzz surrounding this duel isn't confined to the West Coast, nor is it contained within American or Filipino borders. This anticipation spans the entire globe without exaggeration. Grasping the true weight of this situation requires a quick look at where they're playing. Fans lovingly call it tennis paradise, while the community widely views Indian Wells as the sport's unofficial fifth Grand Slam. Tucked away inside the Coachella Valley and framed by the stunning San Jacinto Mountains, this competition stands as the absolute highest peak in tennis beyond the main four events. The crown jewel of these gorgeous grounds is Stadium 1, ranking globally as the second biggest open-air tennis arena, trailing solely behind New York's Arthur Ashe Stadium. Packing out 16,000 spots for a single match is an absolute triumph of both crowd-drawing power and event organization. Normally, during the opening stages of a Masters 1000 or WTA 1000 tournament, the bottom sections are full while a handful of hardcore fans scatter across the nosebleeds to endure the blazing heat. Capacity crowds usually only show up when everything is on the line. That means waiting until there's actual hardware sitting courtside ready to be lifted. However, all the normal rules went right out the window today. Everyone from event planners and security guards to the mom-and-pop shops all around Palm Springs. Every single person got swept up in the massive tsunami caused by this particular pairing, which purely proves the unbelievable magnetic pull these two young athletes possess. Looking at one half of the court, we've got Coco Gauff, the absolute sweetheart of the United States tennis scene. This phenom lived right up to her sky-high expectations, securing a major title while winning over countless fans along the way. Competing right here in her own backyard, she is totally used to having the entire audience rooting heavily for her success. Those stateside supporters completely charge her up, and she channels their roaring applause into pure motivation whenever she faces a tough spot. Not only is she an incredible physical talent and a brilliant tactician, but her cutthroat drive has already secured her place in history while still practically a kid. The second Coco Gauff sets foot on an American hardcourt, she becomes the clear-cut player to beat. She represents the top tier, acting as the ultimate gold standard that every other up-and-coming contender gets compared against right now. Even with that legendary resume and the massive edge of playing at home, she's stepping into an environment today that could seem totally alien to her and maybe even a bit unwelcoming. That isn't because the fans harbor any ill will toward her, but rather due to the absolute force of nature waiting on the opposite baseline, and her name is Alexandra Eala. Anyone who hasn't closely followed the women's circuit over the past 12 months is probably scratching their head wondering how a 20-year-old Filipina player, who currently sits at number 31 globally, manages to draw the sort of massive crowd you'd normally only see at a massive rock show. That puzzle is solved by looking at the immensely devoted, fiery, and deeply supportive worldwide Filipino community, because Alex isn't merely chasing spots on the leaderboard. She carries the hopes of a country boasting upwards of 115 million citizens, plus countless others residing overseas. The seeds of this massive following first sprouted 12 months ago amidst her incredible hot streak down in Miami. Then, down under this past January, supporters literally had to cram into tiny, jam-packed outer courts, standing shoulder to shoulder simply to watch her play. And just a couple of weeks back over in Dubai, she managed to pack out the stands for every single one of her appearances. This Eala fever is no joke, completely shaking up the financial side and the overall vibe of the women's tour, since her followers refuse to just sit quietly and watch. They get incredibly involved, delivering deafening noise and endless hype that transforms a traditionally silent golf clap sport into a wild bleacher-rattling party. Therefore, tossing Coco Gauff and Alex Eala into the same arena delivers way more than a simple athletic contest. It guarantees an explosive crash between two absolute juggernauts. We are watching proven American tennis royalty go head-to-head with the rapidly rising star of Asia. This storyline is so incredibly captivating that TV networks worldwide are working frantically to make sure their broadcasts go off without a hitch. The internet is completely blowing up right now, with social media platforms shoving event-related hashtags straight to the #1 trending spot. The insane amount of online chatter focused on this third-round battle is actually drowning out the news of actual major global headlines today. It serves as an awesome testament to how athletics can pull people together, pump up a crowd, and completely capture our collective attention. However, all this massive buzz isn't purely driven by fame, it's heavily anchored in their actual on-court history. You simply can't hype up this reunion without bringing up the giant, undeniable backstory that run-in they had in Dubai barely over 14 days ago. When they squared off during those quarterfinals, the entire sports community was absolutely electric. Everyone tuned in expecting a down-to-the-wire nail-biter, but instead got a clinic in strategy and a display of pure, unrelenting power from Coco Gauff. The U.S. star completely picked Eala apart, taking the victory in straight sets 6-0, 6-2. That reality check hit hard for Alex and her massive fan base, acting as a brutal wake-up call about the sheer distance that often separates an emerging talent from an elite top-5 veteran. Gauff completely dismantled Eala's game last time out, jumping all over weak second deliveries, punishing anything left short, and smothering the player from the Philippines with her unmatched speed and defensive hustle, which perfectly sets the stage for the massive mental chess match we are about to witness today. We are looking at an epic narrative built around bouncing back, making adjustments, and showing serious grit. Alex Eala steps on court hoping to show everyone that her blowout loss in Dubai was just a weird fluke, a terrible outing, and a tough lesson rather than the true gap in their talent levels. She needs to channel that devastating loss into fuel, tweak her strategy, and march right out onto this enormous California court armed with fresh confidence and a better tactical approach. Will she be able to deal with that massive topspin rolling off Gauff's forehand? Will she manage to hold her own service games while playing under the brightest spotlights and the incredibly loud energy of 16,000 screaming fans? On the other side of the net, Coco Gauff faces her own unique and equally intimidating set of hurdles. It is tough to keep your head in the game and stay fully driven when you are facing a rival you absolutely destroyed just a couple of weeks prior. Your brain naturally wants to take the foot off the gas, creating this risky illusion that securing a victory today will be exactly as effortless as their previous encounter. On top of that, Gauff must mentally deal with the bizarre reality of competing on American soil while quite possibly listening to the stadium route harder for her international opponent. Eala has actually gone on record saying that the American deserves the ultimate respect from the stands since she is playing right in her own backyard. However, the sheer passion of the Filipino supporters guarantees the arena will be absolutely flooded with love for the unseeded challenger. That dynamic is exactly why this clash is generating massive global buzz. It explains why resale prices for seats have gone completely through the roof. We are staring at the ultimate convergence of compelling storylines. A seasoned prodigy taking on an emerging talent. The homegrown hero battling an international sensation. A lopsided repeat directly colliding with an absolute thirst for revenge. The atmosphere out here in Indian Wells is absolutely buzzing with pure anticipation. All that scorching desert sun pales in comparison to the intense fire driving this rivalry. Standing right at the edge of this blockbuster battle, we need to peel back the layers of sold-out seats, loud cheers, and viral social media posts. Now we have to strip it down to the actual sport itself. We are going to break down the tactics, run the numbers, and predict precisely how this legendary battle will play out across the sluggish, sandpaper-like surface of Stadium 1. Get ready for an in-depth tactical preview of this elite encounter. Let's move past the wild hype surrounding the event and focus strictly on the physical gameplay elements that will ultimately crown a winner. Sure, the crowd is going to bring the energy, but the athletes are the ones who actually have to perform. To truly grasp how this contest will go down, we must carefully examine the recent play signature strokes and obvious weaknesses of both Coco Gauff and Alex Eala. Starting things off with the hometown favorite, currently ranked number 4 in the world, Coco Gauff. Based on the sky-high expectations she sets for herself, 2026 has definitely been a roller coaster of a season, marked by some up-and-down performances. Do not get it twisted. Though she remains an absolute nightmare of a draw on the women's circuit, bringing a remarkably solid streak of victories right into this event. Yet, There are a few visible flaws in her game right now. The biggest red flag, which has captured the attention of every single pundit and rival camp, revolves entirely around her service motion. Coughing up double faults has turned into a persistent headache for the American throughout the current campaign. She currently ranks near the absolute peak of the leaderboard for missed second serves, racking up over 110 of them so far this year alone. That is an outrageously high number for someone sitting inside the top 5. Whenever her delivery is dialed in, it acts as an absolute cannon that grabs easy points and controls the rally right from the jump. Once the tension ramps up, however, her ball toss goes completely haywire, her technique crumbles, and she ends up handing away freebies to the other side of the net. Inside an arena packed with 16,000 voices, where a missed shot draws either a groan or loud applause from her rival supporters, what happens to her confidence if she coughs up 2 or 3 doubles in a single game? She would effectively be tossing Eala the precise life raft the Filipina star needs to find her rhythm in the return games. Gauff anchors her entire style around generational explosive athleticism. There is a strong case that she is the quickest woman competing on the professional circuit right now. Her ability to shrink the court is iconic. You might rip a ball that looks like a guaranteed winner, but she will miraculously scrape back a desperation slice and completely restart the dynamic of the point. That exact superhuman defense was the precise element that shattered Eala's resolve back in the Middle East. The young challenger was forced into feeling like she needed to string together 3 or 4 flawless strikes just to get on the scoreboard. Flipping over to her attack, Gauff wields a lethal two-hander. That wing is incredibly stable, remarkably flat, and consistently punches through the court. Still, her forehand wing has always been the primary area her rivals try to exploit. Even though she has made massive strides with that stroke recently, heavy pressure can still force the technique to crumble and produce sloppy mistakes. The sluggish high-friction pavement here in the desert could genuinely provide the American with an extra split second to prepare her swing on that side. At the same time, those conditions prevent her from simply blasting the ball past people dragging her right into extended, physically punishing exchanges. Let's flip the script and take a closer look at what Alex Eala brings to the table. The 20-year-old is an absolute hero back in the Philippines, showcasing a gorgeous new-school style polished over at the Rafa Nadal Academy over in Spain. She has evolved into an entirely distinct athlete compared to where she stood just 12 months back. Her body has gotten much stronger, allowing her to inject serious pop into her baseline shots, while her tennis IQ has skyrocketed, teaching her to map out points instead of depending solely on flashy ball striking. Getting to this third-round stage in the desert was no walk in the park. She went to war against the always dangerous Dayana Yastremska from Ukraine in a truly grueling physical slugfest. Eala displayed unbelievable toughness during that clash, bouncing back from a second-set letdown to clutch out a super-close 3-set victory. That battle dragged on for nearly 2 hours and 45 minutes, locking it in as one of the most marathon sessions of the entire afternoon. It firmly established that the rising star has the gas tank to outlast someone in a sheer brawl, though it definitely leaves a few question marks about how well her body has bounced back. The real question is whether she has the stamina to outlast Coco Gauff's incredible defensive play so soon after her last match. From a strategic standpoint, Eala relies heavily on a massive looping forehand to dictate play. Stepping onto the court as a southpaw instantly tips the scales slightly in her favor. That signature cross-court shot automatically homes in on a righty's backhand side. However, this matchup introduces a really intriguing twist. The backhand happens to be Gauff's absolute deadliest weapon. Consequently, if Eala falls into the typical lefty versus righty pattern, she will be hitting right into the American superstar's wheelhouse. Because of this, the Filipina athlete has to play with fearless aggression and pinpoint accuracy. She will need to rip that forehand straight down the line to put pressure on her opponent's weaker wing. Even though taking the ball over the highest section of the net is a lot riskier, she simply has no other choice if she wants to win. The underdog also needs to avoid getting stuck in prolonged backhand exchanges, or the American will just wear her out. The challenger must take charge of the points. She needs to catch the ball on the rise move forward and take time away from her opponent. When reviewing the footage of that brutal 6-0, 6-2 beatdown over in Dubai, the reasons behind the loss are obvious. The playing surfaces out in the Middle East play much quicker compared to the conditions at Indian Wells. Gauff leveraged that extra pace to rush those big looping ground strokes, leaving her opponent completely out of sync all match. She spent the entire contest leaning backward. Her shots lacked depth, allowing her rival to effortlessly step up and put the ball away. On top of that, the magnitude of the moment clearly got to her. The sheer velocity of the incoming shots, paired with the intimidating presence of a Grand Slam winner, completely paralyzed the young star. The California desert, however, presents a totally new challenge. The courts here produce a significantly livelier bounce. The gritty surface creates a lot of friction, which takes the sting out of incoming shots. Those exact dynamics are a dream scenario for competitors who rely on heavy spin, which perfectly describes Eala's playing style. That extra height is going to force Gauff to retreat way behind the baseline. Should she manage to crank up the revolutions per minute on her dominant side, she will bump the ball way out of her opponent's comfort zone, erasing that power advantage and pulling her off the court. However, you do not win matches on paper. This sport is entirely mental. The battle of nerves we are about to witness is going to be off the charts. Put yourself in the challenger's shoes. You step onto the court in a packed 16,000-seat arena, looking up to catch countless fans flying the colors of the Philippines. The pressure of their hopes rests squarely on your shoulders, and right across from you stands the exact same player who handed you a humiliating defeat on international television only a month ago. She has to completely block out all of that emotional baggage. Getting caught up in the hype is not an option. She simply has to focus on the game itself. Getting off on the right foot is crucial. Should the Americans snag an early break and jump ahead 3-0, those terrible memories from their last meeting will instantly resurface, and we could be looking at a 45-minute blowout. Winning that opening service game is absolutely mandatory for the underdog. She needs to make a statement strike through her shots with total conviction and prove to Gauff that nothing will come easy this time. As for the favorite, her biggest hurdle will be keeping her emotions in check. She is fully aware of her superior ranking and remembers perfectly well how effortlessly she cruised through their previous encounter. Yet she is also dealing with some serious serving issues, and she understands that the fans will erupt for every brilliant shot the Filipina hits, and even worse for every single service error she commits. The American desperately needs to stay grounded. Tuning out the chaotic atmosphere is key. She must lean heavily on her elite defensive skills and just let the younger girl make the unforced errors. Her corner has definitely hammered home the importance of biding her time. There is no sense in trying to overpower someone on such a sluggish surface. The goal is simply to maintain depth. She should rely on her incredible speed to track down every ball, forcing the 20-year-old to crack under the intense spotlight. It is also crucial to look at what this showdown means for the broader landscape of the BNP Paribas Open. Nobody is handing out a championship cup today. The victor simply advances to the round of 16, yet the confidence boost from a win right here could set the tone for the entire week. Should the favorite steamroll her opponent once more, it will definitely put everyone else in the draw on high alert. It essentially screams, "My toss might be off, but I will still absolutely destroy these up-and-comers even when the stadium is rooting against me." That outcome would instantly solidify her status as the player to beat. On the flip side, if the challenger actually secures this massive win, it would send absolute shockwaves through the tennis world. The entire bracket would suddenly become anyone's game. Every single headline would pivot to focus on the incredible surging run of the young Asian star. Pulling this off would easily go down as one of the most shocking results of the 2026 calendar year. That is not merely due to the huge gap in their rankings, but largely due to how badly she got crushed the last time they met. Now let us break down the actual mechanics of what we will see on the court. Returning is going to make or break this matchup. The underdog usually loves taking massive swings, especially when facing a first serve that packs a punch but lacks consistency. She might actually need to play it safe, opting to just chip it back in play to ensure depth and get the point started. However, when looking at that second serve, which has been leaking double faults lately, she has to move in and completely unload on it. Giving away free points there is not an option. On the other side of the net, the American is definitely going to pounce on those slower deliveries, since they simply do not have the speed you see from elite servers. The strategy will be to blast the return right at the weaker wing, instantly pinning her back and completely taking that lethal forehand out of the equation. Whoever manages to take control right from the opening 3 strikes of each point is practically guaranteed to walk away with the victory today. Closing out our massive breakdown of what is shaping up to be an absolute classic, it is time to step back and take in the macro view. Fans are in for an absolute treat out there between the electric vibe, the chess match on the court, the historical weight, and the ultimate comeback storyline. Everything is perfectly colliding out in the Californian desert at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, showcasing the exact reason we are all so obsessed with this game. Hitting the ball back and forth is only half the story. The real draw is watching raw human emotion unfold live before a worldwide audience. Packing a 16,000-seat arena to the rafters for merely a third-round clash perfectly highlights how the women's tour is currently enjoying a glorious peak of fascinating stars and jaw-dropping skill. The established veterans are actively being pushed aside by an incredibly hungry and relentless wave of fresh faces. Even though she already has a major title under her belt, Coco Gauff is obviously still just a kid herself. Regardless, she is suddenly playing the role of the seasoned pro trying to protect her turf from an explosive upcoming talent like Alexandra Eala. Whoever walks away with the win today will cement their place in history, going far beyond a simple box score to become a massive cultural moment for fans across America, the Philippines, and the globe. Regardless of whether you are rooting for the raw physical dominance and proven greatness of Coco Gauff, or you find yourself totally captivated by the ultimate underdog journey and the magnetic hype surrounding Alexandra Eala and her diehard supporters, this showdown is absolute must-watch television. This entire spectacle perfectly highlights how wonderfully international this game has truly become. It proves beyond a doubt that a youngster grinding away on courts in Manila can hustle her way through elite training camps, cross the globe, and pack an arena out in the California desert while facing off with an absolute superstar. Therein lies the absolute beauty of the Pro Tour, taking an incredibly isolating and ruthless competition and using it to bond countless fans together over pure anxiety-crushing defeats and euphoric victories. With the pregame hitting wrapping up and both athletes getting ready to step onto the baseline, all the hype officially fades away and the real battle kicks off. Those tricky desert breezes are bound to kick up. Darkness is going to gradually blanket Stadium 1 while the deafening cheers of 16,000 passionate spectators ring out across the Coachella Valley night. Which of these competitors is going to crumble when the heat gets cranked up? Which one is destined to step up to the plate? Are we in for another one-sided beatdown, just like we saw over in Dubai? Or are we actually sitting front row for the kickoff of a gritty, unforgettable back-and-forth rivalry we are just minutes away from finding out? I massively appreciate you hanging out with me for this heavy breakdown of today's marquee clash. If you loved diving into the nitty-gritty tactics with me, go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you are always in the loop when we cover massive storylines in the sports world. Now I need your takes immediately. Jump into the comments down below and drop your absolute final picks for this one. Will the sheer physical prowess and big match reps of Coco Gauff carry her to the finish line? Or is Alex going to channel all that incredible Filipino fan energy into a career-defining upset? Let me know your exact set predictions down there too. Also, tell me if you guys want me streaming a live watch-along during the action or if you would rather get a complete strategic recap video from me tomorrow. Have an absolute blast watching this showdown, folks. Soak in the historic vibes, and I will catch up with you all in the next upload. Stay safe out there and have fun watching the greatest sport on earth.